Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I will try to use, humbly stories from my experience as a young leader. Today, the world is at a crossroads, and we face unprecedented complexity: climate anxiety, digital disruption, youth unemployment, and a growing distrust of public institutions driven by extreme political polarization. It's us versus them, the haves and the have-nots, the Gen Zs, the millennials, and the elderly. I'm here to state that our greatest enabler and means of getting back to the mountain top is the right political leadership. What makes transformational leaders special is a question. Now look, I must state at the very beginning that the greatest gift of leadership that has the primary purpose of serving humanity, is that it humbles you. When you think you're most prepared is when you realize that you do not know enough. And that's precisely why we need to reimagine the attributes of who should be our political leaders. Today, I will offer 3 core principles that will guide us in creating the future we want to live in. Because frankly, in this very minute, we need leadership that inspires hearts and minds. One that is moral, visionary, inclusive, and deeply human. We need rekindled hope to move forward together. In 2018, I had packed my bags and scheduled dates with the movers. Myself, my wife, and at the time, I had only one child. We were on our way to South Africa from Kenya. For 2 years, after completing my PhD in biomechatronics at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts, I had worked from Nairobi. I had worked at the IBM Research Lab as an inventor, an innovator, and data scientist deploying AI solutions in healthcare in Sierra Leone, in Kenya, in South Africa. Then one day I got a text message. It was from the newly elected president of Sierra Leone, Dr. Julius Maada Bio. It was simple. He asked me to return home. My parents, family members, friends, they were all skeptical because I was returning home to an idea on a piece of paper and a title no one else had ever heard of in Sierra Leone. Chief Innovation Officer. That was my job, to establish the Directorate of Science, Technology, and Innovation with a vision to use science and technology to support delivery on our National Development Plan and to strengthen the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem in Sierra Leone. The primary reason why I said yes was because President Bio and I had been talking about his vision for many years before his election. This question remained the same. How do we use science and technology to support national development? The directorate became a mainstay, from one person with a title on a piece of paper to over 80 staff, mostly young people. While deploying technologies, we also built human capital. That was a direct mandate from President Bio to me. Today, the Minister of Communication, Technology and Innovation, Madam Salima Ba, is a 34-year-old young woman who joined me at DSTI as a policy analyst. Over the years, we have transformed that sector and industry with an investment of about $250 million over the past 7 years. Lots to be proud of, but I learned the hard way. When I first joined government, I had dreadlocks. I wore T-shirts. I had never worn a suit in State House. And I spoke freely. I talked about data everywhere. I asked people one time to be data-wise. And I sent interns to meet heads of agencies to get stuff done quickly. Those employees were sent back to me with disparaging remarks. You're dressed like a schoolboy, just like your boss. The media bashed at me and suggested that I didn't know my priorities. People were hungry and I was telling them about innovation. President Bill pulled me aside one day and he told me that I needed to be more human. I was speaking too much like a tech bro. It made sense. I started to speak about data, not as megabytes, but as means of accessing better education and healthcare. In this world of abundant information, our leaders must understand data, how to use data, how to make decisions informed by data, and they must be technical. Second, modern political leaders must be radically inclusive. It's simply a commitment to action to making the world more just. A year and a half in government, President Bill turned to me again and asked me to be his Minister of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. I was 33. Again, everyone, and that time, including myself, wondered if this indeed wasn't a bit out of reach. I realized that technology was not only a catalyst for service delivery, it was a bridge to justice. But our greatest transformation did not come from gadgets or algorithms. It came from radical inclusion, the audacious belief that every single human being matters equally. You see, radical inclusion began not as a policy. It was a moral confrontation. Pregnant girls were banned from school. Kids with disabilities were marginalized and did not have access. Learners in remote and hard-to-reach areas did not have the infrastructure for learning in a safe environment. And there was a big difference between the haves and have-nots in learning outcomes. That was a challenge. And I realized that silence and inaction is complicity. So I listened. I listened to the mothers, the teachers, religious leaders, and even those who were opposed to the change. And through that listening, we built consensus from the President's office to the well of Parliament, from mosques to the market squares. And we agreed as a nation that we must stop at nothing until every boy and every girl, no matter their religion, origin, age, physical or cognitive ability, socioeconomic status, until every child is given an opportunity to reach his or her fullest potential. And today, that vision, spearheaded by President Bill, has yielded results that speak for themselves. Nearly 2 million additional new learners in 7 years. The highest rate of girls completing primary school in West Africa. And a 33% drop in teenage pregnancy. Learning outcomes across every indicator in Sierra Leone today is better than it was yesterday. And I even won the prestigious World Best Minister Award from the World Government Summit. From that moment, inclusion became more than a policy. It became a philosophy of leadership. It is a movement. We need our leaders to understand that social media is a platform for engagement. It is on us to enable our youth to use technology productively. This is really hard because on a continent where 70% of the population is under 35, our greatest challenge is how to enable these youth to be the entrepreneurs, problem solvers, innovators, and leaders, not tomorrow, but today. My third and final point is this. Modern leaders must make bold hard, and ambitious decisions that are forward-looking. In Sierra Leone, there's a phrase we use: stick to the plan and follow the leader. The fact is, no nation can undergo development without a steadfast commitment to a vision and blueprint that does not span the electoral life cycle of a president. At the continental level, that's the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. One of the flagship projects of that ambitious agenda is the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, aimed at creating a single market for goods and services, boost intra-Africa trade, and foster economic growth. Sierra Leone is one of the first countries to complete its readiness assessment. We're sticking to the plan. Is your country? For the Africa we want, we need leaders who understand that we must stick to the 50-year plan and make hard choices today that will pay off tomorrow. How are we going to ensure that our youth are not job seekers, but job creators? We stand and point at the Gen Zs without engaging them in civic education so they can understand and share in the rewards of good democratic dividend. These youth, those youth, that's some of us just a few years ago, want change that works for them, change that includes them, and change that they are part of. In Sierra Leone, our vision is clear. We're sticking to the National Development Plan, which has the goal of achieving middle income status by 2039 through inclusive growth that is sustainable and leaves no one behind. We want to end extreme poverty for our citizens. And this is not political rhetoric. Over the past several years, we're focused on doing so with the private sector. I always say, for development to be sustainable, we must think about profit, people, and the planet. I'll end by saying this. While it can feel grim and sad as we flip through news channels and scroll through our Facebook media and social media feeds, I'm filled with hope for the African continent. Africa is the place to be today, and it shall be the place to be for the next century. We have the youth that will innovate and provide a skilled workforce. We have the climate and the land that will feed the planet. And we have the critical minerals that will enable a just energy transition. This is why it is so important that we have modern political leaders who understand data and technology, are radically inclusive, and are ready to make hard, bold, and visionary decisions. We must stick to the plan, and together we will deliver the Africa we want. I am ready. Are you? Thank you.
I was making the point earlier that 9 of the world's 10 oldest presidents or heads of government on the African continent. This is a particular pet peeve of mine.
I think the continent needs to look at itself and understand that leadership has to be intergenerational. The ability to go and bring resources from your partner countries, to stay in 3-hour meetings, to go to the marketplace and run to church and mosque and the football field requires a different type of energy.
You tell me.
And there's a disconnect
the ridiculousness of the idea of the old and feeble running the affairs of our continent seems to me to require the urgency that will make change happen. And so I see you as a rebuke to that.
I think in this minute in Sierra Leone, I will be shocked if the next president is not a young person.
Would you be shocked if the next president is not you?
This is the part where I drink some water for your next question.
All right, just one last...
On this, I always say this. I'm so grateful for what President Bio has done. He's shown us. I was kicked out of a room. He brought me in, and they put me behind on the second row. He brought me forward. He put me next to him. He didn't stop there. He turned on the mic for me to speak. I've done the same for many, 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 many other young people.
Your country, let's face it, is a very small one, right? And a very poor one. Does that make your work any less complex or important?
The opportunities in the continent cannot be looked at within our borders alone. You can be South Africa and a big country, or Nigeria or Egypt in a different league of your own. But for you to reach your fullest potential, to get most of your people out of poverty, you need Sierra Leone, you need Togo, you need Rwanda, you need Benin, you need Cape Verde.
Mozambique.
You need Mozambique. And I think that the opportunities and how and why leaders like us must think continental is because we will reach our fullest potential when we do it together. That's why Mandela, that's why Kwame Nkrumah. I feel very positive about Sierra Leone, but I'm even more excited about the opportunities in the continent because I feel like if you're not in the continent, if you don't have an Africa strategy, then you're too late.
What do you say to fellow young people to inspire us to take the more difficult path, not the shiny, golden opportunity resume bullet points, but the more difficult path in service to people, to humanity, to the planet? And what do you say to the older people in the audience who should hopefully be welcoming visionary young people into their organizations to do what the president did for you, which is invite you into the room, give you a seat at the table, turn the microphone on, and let you show up with your t-shirts and your dreads and whatever else, and not try to change you?
The greatest joy I've had is to see a young blind girl in rural, the farthest district, poorest district in Sierra Leone, come to my office with her daughter many years after she couldn't transition from junior secondary school to senior secondary school. I saw her story on Facebook. I copied it. I sent it to my team to say, go and solve her problem for her. Go and make sure that her results can be published. They did. They published it. She transitioned. She went through senior secondary school. She's now in university, and her daughter can also transition. There's nothing more beautiful than having policy that shapes people's lives and destiny. And Magdalene is one story. There are many, 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 many more of Magdalenes around Sierra Leone whose work and whose life has been shaped in a way that they are contributing back to society. I loved IBM. I love private research, but I'm grateful that I can be using my talent and my experience and my networks to transforming people's lives like Magdalene. The message to our elders and to people who like to keep the gate closed: it is always better for you and for everybody else when we're more inclusive, when we can have more people at the table, younger people with dreadlocks or not, in suits or in track suits, when we have girls, people with disability, when we're radically inclusive, intentionally committing to bring everybody around the table, we're always better off. And that's been shown over and over and over again in businesses, in institutions like Stellenbosch, in governments like President Bio's government. Our results are better when we're more inclusive.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor.